I'd like to welcome everybody to the committee review meeting on February 7th, 2017. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we can go ahead and start with item A.
Just a brief update on facilities master plan. Pretty soon it's not going to be a master plan. It's going to be bid documents, and then it's going to be winning bidders, and then it's going to be construction. I anticipate everything's on schedule. That's not anticipation, it is. We're on schedule. John and the guys from Steed, Hammond and Paul, and me as I've been available or not, have been out to all the buildings. I think SHP was here for 5 straight days, really grinding and looking at the most efficient ways to do our secure entrances. And so now it's into the drawing stages, the shop drawings and all those things. So what I anticipate is I'll be bringing to the board at the March board meeting approval for the treasurer to advertise for bids, which would mean in April we would approve the winning bidder, and then they start ordering materials the next day. What I'd like to do, I could sit here and explain to you guys how the secure entrances will look, but as I put in the status report, what I'd like to do, and Sarah reminded me that I got to send home permission slips with you guys, is if you're interested in this, what I think would be kind of neat, because this is the most important thing in the whole bond issue. Everything's important, but safety and security of our staff and our kids is paramount. As I tell people all the time, it's my number one job, keeping our staff and students safe. And so what I'd like to do is, for executive session, start the high school, walk over the middle school, then come to the 3 elementaries and show you exactly what it's going to look like, if you guys are interested in doing that. If not, I can get up on the whiteboard and draw little diagrams with color-coded markers and try to explain it to you. And it'll look like I'm drawing stick figures and playing they're really bad. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are interested, I'll double check with Bill Dieters to make sure it's, as long as we're not behind closed doors, it should be legal. I mean, we've already kind of walked around before, but I'll check with Bill and I'll email him on my way home tonight. Oh, not while I'm driving, once I get home. See, if we drove together, I'd say you're driving, I got to work. And so, but I think that'd be really neat if you guys are interested in it, because we've changed a couple things. The way we're going to do some stuff, like initially we were going to have this as the main entrance, but we came up with an even better idea to still keep that, the grand entrance, still the main entrance. And so we've really kind of got it narrowed down to even how Sharpsburg, it's going to be the least intrusive, but still very safe. The middle school, high school is the easiest, straight across the lobby there. But I think it'll be really neat. And so I can get Mr. Dieter's input on it, and as long as it's 100% within the statute for executive session, I'd like to take everybody around and, probably take 45 minutes an hour or something like that. I think it would be kind of fun. Mm-hmm. So along with the safety and security, we've got middle school tuck pointing this summer. If you remember, we were going to do it last summer, but we put it off to this summer. So it's not obviously the entire doggone building. It's basically like we've done in every building. All the lintels, that metal piece right there that holds up all the brick from not caving in the windows, and any cracks that we have throughout the building, then tuck points everything basically from the top windows all the way up to the parapets, because that's where you start to get your fatigue and failures, because there's not structural steel in there, rebar or anything. That's just straight brick and mortar. And in many cases, it's the original brick and mortar. So the middle school, what's that make it, about 103 years old? And so we'll be doing that. So it's going to be, every building is going to be busy. The middle school is going to be real busy. The timing is really good because it's early enough that by doing a March bid, you get later than a March bid is when a lot of your contractors are don't have enough labor to really tackle jobs. Interest rates still staying kind of low. Well, I don't want to say present a challenge, but anything if you read like Wall Street Journal or CNBC on a daily or weekly basis, right now the economy is really hot in the construction trades. And so there's a lot of things going. So that can work for us and against us. For us, that most people got a lot of labor. Against us is sometimes that'll drive material prices a little bit higher. But all of that's built into our budget. Contingency, inflation, all those things are built into the budget. So, but I anticipate we'll get a lot of a lot of competition on our bids because they're big jobs and good jobs. The middle school air conditioning bid that you guys, that we approved not too long ago, I think it was the last board meeting in Guyler, that work will start first week in March. And it'll be after school at the middle school. And then anything that they've got to actually get in and test and all those things where they're going to need to test temperatures, that'll be done over spring break, and it'll be completed before everybody comes back for spring break. If you remember, the middle school AC unit for the it's for the office that was shot. We had repaired it for as long as I've been here, and you couldn't even get the parts anymore. It's so old. So, and it's not a rooftop unit. It's in the courtyard. If you walk out of the middle school office, there's a locker bay back into the right there. That's where the unit is. But it's a little tricky because things got to go up the building, across the ceiling, and then into the middle school office. So that's why it's an after-hours project. So any questions on the facilities master plan, which we're going to get busy here real soon. It's a lot of fun. Next, Allison update. As you guys saw, forwarded you an email, I think it was last week, from Scott Call from VS West, just telling us, was anybody able to get that link to work?
Like I did, it was missing an A.
Okay.
It was like heritage, no A.
Because I wasn't able to get it to work, and I tried a couple times, but I had seen a lot of the drawings already. So he's moving forward. Every time I talk to him, he's moving forward. He's excited. I could even tell you, based on your square foot, the 750 square foot units will be about 90,000. All the way up to 1,100 square foot units will be about 115,000. Then there's a penthouse unit on the top floor that'll be about 1,450 square units. That'll go for about 130,000. So now, if you did notice, we've been planning on a late February closing date. Well, late February is like a week from now, 2 weeks from now. If you saw the email, he said he's anticipating sometime in early March. Now, I'm going to tell you, I don't anticipate anything falling through, but if you've ever sold a house, it can fall through when you're walking into the closing. So until we have something signed, I'm going to be a little nervous about it. Hypothetically, worst case scenario, let's say this would fall through. Okay? We haven't spent any of the money or anything like that because we don't have it. I would recommend if for some reason this falls through, that our next move would be to interview some commercial realtors, because me and John Peter are not realtors, and people kind of came to us. But to really market this, if this falls through, that's just not what we do. That's not our profession. That's not what we're trained at. Again, I don't anticipate it. I don't feel it. I'm not saying that because I'm thinking it might happen, but my job is to look down the road and be prepared for the good and the bad. And I know, Sarah, you've been watching a church next door. I don't have any really idea, but I know he's buying, both properties. My, hypothesis would be if we had this listed with a realtor, we'd be listed as pending. But I don't know if his closing date, if he's trying to buy ours and the church at the same time. I've seen the floor plans for that and ours, so I know that's listed as pending, right?
Yeah, it's still pending, and it's not changed on Hamilton County site.
So I haven't really asked him about, hey, what's the deal with that? Because I haven't felt it's a whole lot of my business because it's not our property. I can, but again, I don't know if he's looking at closing in the same week or at the same time, what his financing is, if it's for separate, if it's for both, I have no idea. But I don't have a problem in shooting Scott an email and asking him just to try to get some information.
Yeah, I don't think we need to ask about that property. I'm just wanting to get a date in the books as to when we can close on ours.
I want a date that I can put in my calendar and that I can tell our legal counsel, we need you here at this time and this date, because he's going to be running that show.
Get historic tax credit.
He looked into it for us, but there was going to be so much he wasn't going to be able to touch at Allison. Mm-hmm. Like he wasn't going to be able to cut in an extra window. Mm-hmm. And like he said, while a lot of people like stained glass, people don't want to buy a condo or an apartment with stained glass because it doesn't let any light in. Mm-hmm. Then he wouldn't have been able to renovate the auditorium and turn it into additional units, or the gym. It was like the gym. He goes, Rob, that's going to be units, but I kind of need windows.
Right.
And so, those are the things that led him away. And he did mention with the church, that's where he was talking about the stained glass. Mm-hmm. If we have any stained glass left up top, it's sandwiched between plywood that's up there. Because I know at one time we did. So I know he was talking about the challenge of because he's developed churches before, the challenge of stained glass is beautiful, but a lot of people don't want to live in a unit that has it because it doesn't let in much light. And so he might be, but he's not. I know he's not with us because it would not have made it cost effective for him to get historical tax credits on Allison because he wouldn't have been able to touch so much of the building. So he may be with Cortland, I don't know. So I talk to him about every 2 weeks, typically either by email or phone. And if he's around, he'll call and say, hey, I'm going to stop in and drop this off or that off and things of that nature. So I know I sent you guys kind of that plot plan, but it was in black and white. I've got it in my office in color. Once we get done with our discussion items, we can take a break if you want to run down there and get it and pass it around. And you get a better idea of what it looks like in color. And one of my favorite things is what he's going to do with the landscaping. I mean, I think it's really going to, you got that one house that's a dump. It's like the second one before you hit the stop sign. I'm trying to think who lives there. When you go past Allison, it's the second house right before the stop sign.
That's Waymark?
No, I think it's the Miracle family. That's it. It'll enhance that property value. So I might run down and get that during break because we don't have a color scanner. So if I take something color and scan it, it's black and white. And to see all the green and where the parking lots are going to be. Because, the 2 houses behind Cortland, he bought those. And I think he's renovated them, but ultimately he's going to knock them down, and that's going to be covered parking. And I think that's in the plot plan of the sketch that he has. So it will be great for the city of Norwood. And it'll be a really good thing that we have done when this goes through. And so, I'm trying not to speed or, give anybody a dirty look when they cut me off so I can keep all the good mojo going for the district because I don't want karma to come back and I cut somebody off on 75 or yell at them. And I don't want bad karma to come back on us because my drive home or something. So I'll keep you guys, every time I get something from them, I just forward it to you guys. But I'll bring that down here in a little bit if you'd like. NCCS update.
Okay. Currently, we have 6 of 9 seniors that we have on pace to graduate. We're saying 6, there might potentially be a 7th, but right now, for sure, we've got 6 of 9. Right now, currently, we're gearing up for all the end of year tests and also OGT. We have 2 teachers that are working with the students in order to remediate, get them ready, even after school. After school, we have a teacher that's spending anywhere from 2 to 3 days, which is, perfect because some of the kids, they can come in the morning, but then they can't stay, into the afternoon, but then they can come back later on. Currently, our enrollment's at 30. Kevin's speaking to one potential student right now, parents giving them opportunity, what their options are if they wanted to come into NCCS. And see. Also, we've had OGT, we just found out, has been extended for those students who have completed their coursework but still need the OGT in order to graduate. We're not exactly sure on the year, but it's at least 3 to 4 more years that they have that option. So that's a plus. We're not 100% sure as far as those who have passed but then don't have coursework. We think they're going to go back into end-of-course exams. But otherwise, right now, those who we believe have finished the coursework but still need OGT, that has been extended to them.
So to you and Christina, so you're telling me ODE has made a decision, but they do not have it all completely thought out yet?
Imagine that. I think they have it thought out.
Okay, but out in the trenches, it doesn't match up yet, right?
The good news is that the OGT, the kids who just need, just like in the old days, they don't have a couple more years if that's their only thing. Our belief is that if they don't pass their courses, they go back to the end of course exams, which will be really hard because they've taken that, they took Algebra 1 maybe their freshman year. So when they have to redo those exams. So that's why Kevin and Debbie and everyone's working so hard to get them as far done as they can because it will change. Their rules will change next year.
It's almost like they would be starting all over again.
These would be exams.
Yeah.
That's.
And a lot of those kids that have worked so hard to get to this point, and then for them to kick back and have to.
We did ask for clarification just on that. Everything we see is leading to that. If there are any other decisions they might change to make that a bit easier, but there's nothing in print. So
Have we received that clarification yet?
it'll come. It'll come.
And how many of our students does that affect? Is it
Right now, as far as we have one student that is in this situation where she has one more LPT to pass, but her coursework will be finished. So Kevin and I are pushing to try to get her to pass the OGT, which we believe she will.
right?
Is this our science girl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the situation is, at this point, we just don't know. We're hoping,
Yeah,
but
that one, okay.
And we got who? Steve,
no.
Leslie, and Kara working with us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kara Green, Leslie Hadaway, and Steve Sneeze, tackling our math and science.
And then Kevin works with them, obviously, with English and social studies. And then if they need, any more social studies, then I can help as well.
This is kind of tied to NCCS a little bit because I think I told you about we have our first student as an IEP over there, and she's really succeeding. And I will tell you, and Debbie can tell you because she knows her better than I do, this young lady won probably top 10 IQs in the district. But if it wasn't for NCCS in that environment, she couldn't be in our schools because her biggest challenges are dealing with other kids. But you put her in headphones, working, amazing to work. How fast did she get done with an English class?
3 weeks. 3 weeks.
Because when she was in an
But she's
expulsion,
interested in English.
Yeah.
The rest of it, she's not so sure about. But
when she was in an expulsion hearing with me, while I'm talking, how fast she's reading a book. And she's like, well, I do a book a day. And I'm talking like a big book that takes me like a year. And she's reading, she probably did like 50 pages in 10 minutes with me. But what is kind of tied to this is we went to a meeting at Hamilton County Educational Service Center last week, and go back a couple months when we had our discussion about kids who get expelled, some of them for some pretty sticky situations like possession and things of that nature. When we expel them, you're withdrawn from school. You're not in school. Well, there's a company that is, and this meeting was at Hamilton County Educational Service Center, and there was, 5 school districts with us, and 3 were, for some reason, no-shows, about a program that this company runs, and it's cost neutral, doesn't cost us anything, that the student still stays enrolled with us, but you change their placement to this company, and it's an online program similar to like what we do with Edgenuity, but it provides it's not for everybody because it's at home. It's kind of e-cottage like, but it's of high quality where they have a ton of staff to monitor it. And it will give a tool in the toolbox for superintendents to be able to, if you got that kid who did do something that I need to expel them for, but they're 2 credits shy or 3 credits shy, to still get them graduated. Because I'm going to tell you, you expel that kid who committed an offense that needs to be expelled, they're 2 or 3 credits away, sometimes they're not coming back. Then I see them at a gas station working. And so I'm not a big believer in, well, I'm going to expel you, but you get to go to this, because that kind of takes the teeth out of disciplining for a very severe offense. But it would give a tool in the toolbox for me for that specific instance. Like we had a student not too long ago, who was a senior, that was able to, during your 10-day suspension, by board policy, kids can still do work and turn it in for credit. And it counts as an excused absence. Once you're expelled, you're withdrawn, and you can do work, but it doesn't count. And that student only had about 2 weeks of work left on one last class. He was in Larry Parker Success Academy. And the day of the expulsion hearing, he took his final exam in English and was able to meet graduation requirements. Well, let's say that student was that close but wasn't in the Success Academy. This would give that tool to do this. There would be, what do they need, 20 seats to make it?
yes, for all of Hamilton County.
Yeah.
And they're looking to do it like a consortium so that CPS, any school in Hamilton County, so we would just need to pull 20 students from all of those districts to make it worth their while. Obviously, anything over that would help, but this is a little bit different than ECOP because the kids can dial right in and speak to an instructor, and they can kind of walk
They're
them
Skyping
through.
them, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah.
they can walk them through. So if they're not a Success Academy or they're not an NCCS kid, this still gives us one more opportunity to try to pull them in and get them to that diploma.
And this could be, and this is just, the meeting was just to get to gauge interest by the county because they would run the program. They would kind of house it. And they asked us who was there after, what were we there, about an hour? Are you interested? Now, a couple of us were like, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we had one superintendent there who said, well, in my career, I've expelled like 2 kids. I say, dude, you're not in reality. I won't name the school district, but I mean, you're not in reality. And there's kids doing stuff in your building you just don't know and you're not catching them. But this isn't for everybody. And we're not going away from expelling kids because there are kids who have lost their privilege to be here. Had one yesterday. But with those kids who are in a unique situation where they're close, I think this is a good tool to have. So I'll keep you guys up to speed on it. There were 3 districts that knowing those superintendents, they'll be interested, but they weren't there. And then CPS, I think they do something like this themselves, but what they want to do is get CPS to agree to while Mary Ronan's still there because she's a big believer in this because no one knows who the next superintendent's going to be. So I'll keep you up to speed on it, but when I was sitting in the meeting, I immediately thought about our conversation, going back to when we talked about, well, are we still getting hope for the kids who have a drug offense? And we do. But for those kids who are real close, what can we do for them? Right now, I'm not going to put them in NCCS or Success Academy because they brought drugs to school, and we don't tolerate that. So not only can we get them help, but if they're 2 or 3 credits away, we can get them graduated. And they're with the state curriculum, and they do the grading. They provide monthly updates to us. One thing they did say, if they're an athlete, NCAA Clearinghouse does not recognize this program. Because since no one actually sees them, as opposed to Kevin sees them doing a ton of the work. Our program, Edgenuity, is approved by NCAA Clearinghouse. They haven't approved this because it's all online and all off-site. And so NCAA looks at it as we don't know who's doing the work. I mean, could you see a kid who needs to up his GPA and he runs a 4.340? I'm getting this program and now my GPA just got all straight A's. So that's... They caution us with that. Say OHSAA approves this for a kid to be eligible. But NCAA, if it's a kid who wants to be a scholarship athlete or go to college and play, even if it's a non-scholarship sport, NCAA is not going to. So that's another piece, as if I would get that tool in the toolbox, I would have to make sure it's not a kiddo that wants to go to college and play any type of a sport. Even if it's non-scholarship, the clearinghouse still has to approve you. So,
but they were saying at the school district, it was still up to you all to decide whether they would be then eligible to participate in high school sports. But more than likely, they're not going on to college.
Yeah. Because think about it, if you're homeschooled, you can still play for us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or if you go to a charter school or private school, it doesn't have that sport. Like we had a Purcell Marion girl or 2 playing soccer for us last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So
would they be considered our student?
They would be considered, because if I don't expel them, but I change their placement to them, it's considered our students still, because if you're expelled, you're withdrawn.
Right.
If I, quote unquote, sentence them to this or say, here's where you're going, and if you don't go, then you're expelled. If you don't do work, I'm going to expel you. Basically, it's called holding an expulsion in abeyance is the legal term. Because like I can bring a kid in and say, okay, if you screw up again, you get another office referral, I'm putting this expulsion in abeyance, but if you get another referral, then you're coming back. I can legally do that, and I've done that once or twice for young kids. So you're still ours. You would get a Norwood High School diploma. You would count in our report card as a graduate. So
they give us monthly EMIS reports, and because they don't have the ability to get into our reports, so then it would go to Kimberly, and so then she would enter the information.
Yeah, and it would go to Kimberly for the EMIS stuff to show that they were attending, and then it would go to the counselor, like Tom, to enter their grades. So they provide it to us, but they can't go into our EMIS system and enter. So it's just another tool. I'll let you know. I said we're interested because I would like that tool in our toolbox to be able to pull out on a, once or twice a year. I don't know. Maybe not at all 1 year, 1 time, 3 times. I don't know. It just depends. So I just wanted to let you guys know that. And that email would have been about 4,000 words long to explain it. So I just wanted to piggyback on tonight. So I'm more than happy to talk because you guys are aware. So, all right. Next is strength conditioning coach. You remember we've talked about this in the past, and we said, hey, yeah, it's a great idea. But we had to get the right person or right people. And it's going to have to be somebody that's going to, one, be trained, second, work with all sports, third, coordinate a schedule so we don't have one sport dominating the weight room. And honestly, you can get two sports. Summer's a little bit harder because you're going to have whole teams. But right now, I give you an example if let's say football's in there might be 15, 20 kids because they're all wrestling or playing basketball. Or if track wants to be in there, a lot of those kids are wrestling or playing basketball. So that you can get multiple sports. Like the other day, you had football and girls basketball in at the same time. And so, but here's what you get. Hey, can we come in? Instead of having somebody who's coordinating all this. So I've been looking for 2 years. Last year, JD and I interviewed a bunch of people. We had somebody all set. If you remember JP Simon, he had been working with basketball. Then Maslin offered him $27,000 to be the strength coach. We don't quite pay $27,000 per season is what he was getting to be their strength coach. If you don't know, Maslin has an indoor practice facility. UC has a bubble. Maslin has an indoor practice facility. The Bengals have nothing. So to give you an idea how important Maslin Tiger football is. So we interviewed about a half dozen people last year, personal trainers, guys like that. And some of them just didn't fit the bill what we wanted. Others liked it. We're all excited. We go to offer them a job. And they're like, well, this pays $6,000. I'll lose that in 2 months. Being here instead of doing my personal training, or they work at a place like Ignition, or what's the place that you used to go to, Kenny? Right over the CFF. Yeah. So like you could take a certified trainer from CFF. We're going to give them $6,000, so you have to be here 5 days a week all year and in the summer. They're like, no, I'm not. I can make that in 2 months. Personally training people. So we've had 4 guys who've been working with some sports right now that I sent to get some training Saturday, and I'm prepared to send them to get some more training, but I wanted to run this by you guys. First, I've got the job description I want to pass out. We've had this before, but what I found is when I pulled this job description out, we talked about it in 2 different committees, but guess what we never did? We never put it on a doggone board agenda. But we already put it into the NTA contract. So there's 4 people, 4 names that I want to throw out to you guys that I would take 2 strength coach contracts and split it up. So it pays $6,000. I would pay each of them 3. And here's their job. Meet with every single head coach that we have. Soccer, tennis, golf, swimming, football, basketball, track, softball. What am I missing? Cheerleading, bowling. I'm a cheer dad. I should have remembered that. Taylor worked out. So, and say these 2 things. These several things. What do you need from us? Because you give example. You go to Derek Alsop and say, what do you need from us? He's going to say nothing. Get out of my way. But they're still going to need to be there. But he knows what he needs his wrestlers to do. Exactly what day, when, what exercises. You go to another coach, you're going to say, I don't know squat about working out. I'm going to need a lot. And then create that schedule, a balanced schedule and work with the coaches onto these scheduling times work. And here's what I mean. I mean starting, if we move forward with this, until August 1st, because that's when fall sports start. And so that's the length they'd be working. You're talking on the summer, you would have, and that's why I'm wanting to split it amongst 4 guys, because that way we've always got 2 people in there at all times. Because think about in the summer. You may have 1 or 2 sports up at the high school in the morning, then 1 or 2 sports up there in the afternoon or evening. We can't really expect one guy to do this. We had offered this back in early December or late December to Adam, and he turned it down. So I had to kind of recalibrate and figure out I wanted to go with this. And so I sent Drew Maupin, who's coached swimming, and is a football coach, and he's an aide at the high school. Sergio Smith, who is a kind of like an assistant school psych. He has a bachelor's in psychology, but he coaches nothing, but he's a personal trainer. Drew is taking NSCA courses right now, National Strength Conditioning Association courses. He's taking those right now. Dan Toppin, who teaches right here, wonderful teacher, 4th year teacher for us, Chris, 3rd, 4th year? 4th. Teaches 2nd grade, and Chris Nelson, a 1st-year teacher with us. He teaches in the ED unit, probably has the most patience between he and John Sigler, who runs the ED unit at the high school. These two men have the most patience I've ever seen in a human being. Plus, Chris is a decorated combat veteran from Iraq and Afghanistan. These guys went up to a all-day clinic at Ohio State. They go tomorrow to Ignition. If you guys know where that is, it's out in Mason. Kind of like a CFF, but gigantic. And then I'd like to send them up to Miami because Todd Thackeray's son is the strength and conditioning director for Olympic sports. So that's everybody but football. Because what's important to me is that they are learning not only, and they know a lot. Sergio and Drew know a lot. Sergio knows a lot. He's trained little kids, old people like me, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, competitors, triathletes. He's trained all these people. But as I sat and met with them for about 2 hours yesterday, this isn't about just creating a stronger athlete, a stronger cheerleader, a stronger swimmer, a stronger basketball player. It's about creating a better athlete because it's not just about what you can lift and about moving forward and backward. Think in any athletic event. How many times do you only go from me to Scott and back? Everything is side to side, moving like a star or an X. You're a shortstop in baseball. How many times does a ball get hit right to you? You're a center fielder in softball or baseball. How many times does the ball get hit to you? We were at the girls' basketball game last night. I was specifically watching one for mice, and second in the concession stand, and second for how many times the kids, when they didn't have the ball, how many times were they not going in a straight line, specifically on defense or even offense moving around? Everything's side to side, 45-degree angles, back forward. And so these guys are committed to this, to 5 days a week, year-round to be in there. And we will recalibrate this and see how it goes as it's going into the summer. Ideally, you have 2 people doing this, and this is all they do and nothing else. One person really can't do this 5 days a week because what if they're sick or have a faculty meeting or one of their kids is sick? I don't care if Derek and his whole wrestling staff is in there with 30 wrestlers, these guys are going to be in there because the more eyes, the better. As I emphasize to them, 1, this is about safety, teaching our kids how to work out safely, and 2, the more better condition you are, the safer it is to play your sport because it's injury prevention. And like one of them said to me, well, did you know there's 14 muscles in the neck? I'm like, there's not a lot I know in life, but this is what I know a lot about. Did you know there are 14 muscles in the neck?
Of course I did.
Of course you did. Never surprises me. They're like, and we need to train all 14 muscles in our student athlete's neck. I said, I thought there was like maybe 4. And so these guys, they kept the OSU staff there for 2 extra hours up in Columbus. And just picking their brains. So these guys are committed, they're excited, and if this is something the board is interested in, I would put the job description, which is what you have on the agenda next week, and then we could get these guys going shortly thereafter. They would have to give a weekly schedule to both Mitch and I. I need to keep a close eye on this. Along with Mitch. And this is something for me to keep a close eye on it. I'm getting in Google Docs the schedule every week because I need to make sure there's equity. That's what is important to me. Yeah, I played football, but my daughter was a cheerleader. Mm-hmm. And so it's important to me that equity. And, as I was talking to Debbie about this, she was saying, well, one thing that's important is, girls basketball has been in the weight room, but we need to know their level of teaching that we need to do. And while we can have multiple sports in the weight room at one time, we want to make sure there's no intimidation factor. Because, if you got the wrestlers lifting over here and girls softball lifting over here, I don't want the girls feeling embarrassed or silly because they're lifting, a 10-pound dumbbell.
Long alert.
And I'm always, when we're on vacation, I'm at Planet Fitness, I'm afraid they're going to flip that off so I don't drop a dumbbell or anything. But I don't want that intimidation factor. You got our heavyweight, you got Mikey Addis over here, curling 100 pounds, and I don't want a young lady to feel embarrassed because they're lifting 20. And so those are all things that I was really drilling home with them yesterday. Equity. This isn't about the boys' sports. It isn't about the girls' sports. It's about all the sports. And it's something that I think could benefit all of our kids. I mean, how much would you use a strength coach, Jenny?
A strength coach would be great because when you go to lift for swimming, you lift totally different than you would for football, Matt, because your swimming muscles you want long and strong. You don't want the bulk. So there is a difference. So you do have to have someone that knows what they're doing and what they're doing with the kids because it isn't the same kind of lifting as football or wrestling. It's
Softball,
totally
anything,
different.
yeah.
It's totally, and you have that in a lot of different sports, and I
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
You do have that in a lot of different sports of how you want their muscles built or built up, strengthened. In some sports, you don't want the bulk. You can't, you're going to hurt the kid. You know, in swimming, you're going to hurt a kid if you try and bulk their muscles because of the way they work their muscles in the water.
Because these guys would then be contacting Jenny and saying, okay, what do we need? What do you need from us? Is there specific body parts that you need really to focus on? And then it will also be, well, Jenny, what's your availability? Do you want to be in there, or because of your job, can you not be in there? So we can take it. And so those would be the conversations. These guys said, okay, we need every coach's email and phone numbers. I said, whoa, you're not approved. I'm just gauging, because about 2 minutes into this, I said, if you're not committed 5 days a week into this and working with every sport, you're excused. Don't sit in here any longer. And they're all, just tell us what you want. And so ultimately, I need to develop 1 or 2 female strength coaches. I have an idea of one. She's a first-year teacher here, Maggie Donnellan, played soccer and basketball at Capital University, and she's a volunteer basketball coach for us. And that's somebody who I think we could really develop, because she's a heck of a teacher here, and she's young, full of energy, and she just finished playing a year ago. I mean, this time last year she was playing basketball at Capital. And so, but the key to this is people who are invested, and we know have a track record of being great with kids. Because some kids in the weight room, you got to really motivate and light them up. Other kids, you got to spoon feed them along. And it's okay that you can't lift much today. It's okay. Everybody has a starting spot. And so I'll shut up and take a breath and listen to your guys' feedback. And Jenny, I sink. I can swim about from me to about that cracker that Sarah spit on the carpet, and then I'm sinking.
Remember you were talking about, does she have dark hair?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, long hair to about here. Yeah.
Oh, there it is. She's coming here.
Right. Yeah. So, thoughts? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Come back and talk about it more, or go get it.
Go get it.
All right. So this will be on the agenda for next week, as well as these 4 guys. There'll be 0.50s for 2 contracts. Now, I'm gonna be very clear what I told them. Do not hang mine and the board's butt in the wind. If I get one call about you guys not showing up, I get one call about you screwing over one sport, this isn't like your teaching job. You are done. Because I've made it very clear. And then I'm going to spend a couple days with them in late afternoons, evenings next week about, I want to see your schedule. You know, this is kind of my baby, because I'm a believer that this is a big gap we have for our student athletes right now. Is, Jenny, when you swim against somebody who you see up on the starting blocks, you know those kids have been in a strength conditioning program, kind of makes you go, uh-oh, doesn't it?
Well, and I do some with our kids.
But if we had
I'd like to
a
be
full-time program,
because trying to jockey that as the only coach and stuff.
right? So now you'd have four people who you could sick them on them. I guess when you see one of those kids up on a platform that looks like those old East German swimmers, probably makes you go, doesn't it?
Kind of like last night, a couple of them divers that Aaron had dived against up at Miami. Like, wow.
So we need to develop our kids so people are going, that's a Norwood kid. They must have a good strength conditioning program. And this is 4 more eyes on our kids, guys. 4 more people making relationships, developing relationships with our kids. Ultimately where you want to grow this is to nutrition, hydration, total wellness. That's ultimately where this needs to go. But you got to take steps. And the nutrition part is building those relationships. And so we're still trying to reconnect our relationship with Tiger Fitness, as it did take a hit with our previous football coach. And be 100% clear on tape telling you that. But we're working to reconnect with Chad through a couple of different avenues. He has opened up another humongous warehouse in Las Vegas, I found out yesterday. And that's where he's been for about the last 3 weeks, out in Vegas. So, wow. Norwood guy who started it in his parents' garage. How about that? So,
What's the timing on getting a female coach?
as soon as possible.
As soon as possible? Okay.
Well, once girls are done, I'm going to have a meeting with Maggie after school.
Okay.
it's something we need to do. I mean, here's what I'm going to tell you. I could sit there with my daughter and say, let me show you all these things. And I did for years. Didn't have a lot of interest. And one day I had this idea. Hey, Taylor, why don't you meet me and Debbie at the gym? She became her clone. And it was the same stuff that Dad was telling. But it wasn't just that I was Dad. It was, well, Dad, I don't want to look like you. I'm like, well, don't eat Fritos every night before you go to bed. You won't look like me. So, but having Debbie talk to her, she became attached to the hip. They ran a 5K together and working out together. Maggie will have that same effect.
Yeah.
It's just a natural, I understand it, I get it, and we've got to find it. And so as soon as basketball's over, I'm going to talk to Maggie. And I'm going to tell you guys, if Maggie's in, we add her. I get her to these same places and add her is what I be coming to tell you. Okay, now we got another person that would be on a half. And then we'll kind of thin out a little bit potentially and see where this goes. Because in a perfect world, we have a couple people who don't do anything but this. But to actually have somebody that this is all they do, it's more expensive than the $6,000 supplemental. I want to see this work before I come to you guys, before the negotiations or something, and say, hey, we need $12,000 or something like that. No, it's 5 days a week, every day, year round. It will cost, but if we can get more hands on deck, more eyes, more people involved right now, the better, and we'll see our successes and where we have shortcomings, and then take it from there. Okay. All right. We talked in executive session, what was that, 2 weeks ago, about food service. And one thing I did advise the board was if we want to have Mr. Kipp come in and present to us, and we've had that before, he can be significantly more long-winded than I can, which I know it surprises you. And we can go down avenues that I don't need your help over there. So we could go down avenues that aren't areas of information that we specifically want. So what I'd like to do is get some items. Say, Raj, I want you to come and present to us at March committee on these specific items. Nothing else. And then if you guys have more questions, then you ask them. So let it rip, because I think this is good. I'll bring them in. Sarah, fire away. I know you got some questions.
So overall, I think just getting an understanding of the current state of the program from his update that he gave us in our status.
The status report.
I know that he's saying they're trying to collect the debt. So just understanding how things are going and, how much debt do we have and what are all the ways that they're trying to collect it and how they're deciding about it. Because I think I probably owe $300 and I've never been asked my voice constantly saying, I don't have money, whatever. So I'd love to just have, and if anybody else has stuff, I can add it to our list and send it to you, but just understanding the current state of the program, how much debt do we have, and then better understanding how they're collecting it. And then I've heard so much about the laws or the rules that we have to follow the guidelines of the food and what we have to provide to our kids. Because my next point is I've heard a lot of complaints about food being edible, kids throw it away. I know, Cherry, you said your husband sees a lot of food thrown away at Sharpsburg, and just right now the ketchup's runny. I only hear these things, so I don't know.
Ketchup come out of packs.
I think
it
make their
does.
own barbecue sauce.
Yeah, we do make our own barbecue sauce, yeah.
Yeah. So just understanding, and I don't need a whole,
You want the recipe?
Sure.
Because you can get it.
No, I don't need the recipe.
Yeah.
I just want to understand if there's a site that we could go to even read. I can read on my own time, but just understanding what are the rules that we have to follow. And then I did have two things because I would love to know truly how, my kids aren't picky eaters, but they're the ones that come home and say I couldn't eat the food or whatever. So do we have maybe a survey of the kids just to understand, how they feel about the food? Or do we have a taste test with the board?
No, we had a taste test that we did a couple years ago. And we did one at Fairfield every year. Because I remember something that shocked me. We were going to have Montgomery Inn rib sandwiches. And I thought, oh my God, that's going to be great. But we taste tested with the kids, and the kids were like, what's Montgomery Inn?
Right.
And they were just removed enough in Fairfield that they were like, I've never heard of Montgomery Inn.
Right.
And I hadn't heard of it until I got out of college and actually had a couple dollars. I'm like, I'm going to go get some ribs. I've never been to that place. So,
Last year when I was working at the cafeteria one day with our nonprofit, he brought out a cup of vegetables and was like, try this, it's amazing. And it was amazing, but they were my adult taste buds. I don't think my kids would.
but that's just at the high school, the roasted vegetable bar, which honestly, to me, I think they got a little bit too much garlic. I've told Roger that because I'm miserable for the rest of the afternoon. I know we just added the pasta bar.
Right.
We've had like taco or Mexican bar before. What else have we had? I think when you were still teaching over there, like an Asian bar.
Yeah, then the salad and fruit.
Yeah, with the salad bar. I mean, you had like a small handful of stuff you could put in there. So I think, what I would just say is anything you want, send it to me. I'll have Roger put it together. I'll give him a time limit. And if anybody else has other things you want to have added, send it to me, carbon it to everybody, and I can have him come in March. In regards to collections, it's tough. Sometimes we don't get it collected until like the day of graduation, and sometimes it's staff paying it.
Right.
And because you cannot withhold grades when a kid goes to another school district any longer. And honestly, it used to be we're going to hold your report card. Well, with the Advent of Progress book, there's going to come a day soon where we don't have paper report cards that we mail home. Because even if you don't have internet in your home, most people are able to get it on their device. So, but gladly I will. Actually, he just emailed me today and said, hey, I need an interpreter who knows multiple languages because as we're making some of these calls, I need somebody who even knows multiple dialects of Spanish, as well as now we're having to make calls, and do we have somebody who knows Farsi or Pashtun? So it's just like getting translators for our tests. We do have a teacher, I'll talk to you about this when we meet tomorrow, who speaks, how many languages does Leela speak?
3 or 4.
Yeah, she's French.
Yeah, French, Spanish, Arabic. I think there's one more.
Yeah. So, yeah. So those similar challenges, we go through collection challenges with preschool.
Yeah, in preschool, obviously, I'm at a much smaller, I guess, level of collections. But, I make calls, I send out letters, again, I copy letters and put, have the teachers put them in their backpacks. And still, I mean, it's, I'm not letting it get too far behind. Like right now, by Thursday, I'm on collection duty for they haven't paid January and then into February. But even with that, it's still it's I will finish on Thursday and then I send out on Friday what is who hasn't paid February and then going into March. I mean, it's just it's constant.
Right.
The advantage that you have in preschool is the parents come up to pick up the kids.
Right.
So if we're not getting a connection on a phone call, anything in the backpack letter.
And I can't tell you how many times, I pull up on, Dazzle to see what the phone number is, and I just can't tell you how many times I call. This is not a working number. And then I go to all the contacts. This is not a working number. This is not, there's just... So it does. It makes it very difficult.
And there's times we spread out between a couple of us, between Sharpsburg and Williams, on collection day, on Thursday, and teacher says, okay, that's Kenny's dad. And go out, Debbie was at Sharpsburg and I was here last month. Hi, I'm Mr. Murray, I'm superintendent. Here's your letter, and can't come back until this is paid. And so, but we don't have that advantage of food service because we're not coming to pick them up in the middle of the day and those things. So, but that is a problem. Our debt is a challenge for us every year.
Right.
And one reason it's a challenge is we do have a belief that no child will ever go without a meal. Because you get that kid who comes up, and you don't want to be that kid who doesn't have a meal, or the kid who's eating a cheese sandwich. Remember the days of you get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but we got a lot of kids who have peanut allergies. And so, and we stopped that. My first month as superintendent, not having the kid not have food. We stopped that. I still remember sitting here and we made that decision. Never going to have a child not eat, but there's still a cost. And then, we don't want that kid to be, you're the cheese sandwich kid. Well, how's that little kid feel? It's not his fault that he's the cheese sandwich kid. And so, so that continues to accrue. And then if you have a debt and then you get approved for free lunch, if I'm correct, and Roger may correct me, I don't think we can actually enforce you still owe us $94 because you finally turn in your paperwork for free or reduced. And if you're free, then it kind of gets backdated that we can't collect that. So there's a certain amount of debt we're going to eat every year because a child isn't free lunch early on, even though we're doing everything we can to get them. Some people just don't want to do it. It's embarrassing to them.
Right.
But it'll be good for Roger, and I'll keep him. I will say, talk about these topics only, and then when you get questions asked, answer the question. Basically, don't be like me. Don't go off on tangents. So I'll have him in March. So. All right, last of the discussion items is board meeting communication. We talked in executive session last week, and I know I'm talking about what was an executive session or 2 weeks ago, but I think it's something we're all comfortable saying that we needed to come out and talk further about, was we had talked about televising these meetings, committee, because just like tonight, there's going to be a time, guys, where we approve millions of dollars in construction, and it'll take you about 4 seconds to vote. And that kind of can give the belief that we just put stuff on the agenda. And I've been thinking about this since the first year when we cut $1.2 million in staff in about 8 seconds. But we had spent 9 months working on it. From like my first board meeting when Trevor pulled a bunch of people off the agenda and said, I'm not quite sure how much money we have. And that's when we all went, we got a problem with our treasurer, which is how we ended up getting Ernie. But so we were like, okay, that's a good idea. But then I forget who said, well, what if you don't have Time Warner? You don't get Norwood Community Television. I mean, how many of you guys have Time Warner? Yeah.
But it is on YouTube.
Right. They do have a YouTube channel. So all it takes me is call Tyler and say, hey, send Steve over here and get these on TV. I believe we could put them on our web. We could, what is that, an MP file? Heck, I probably could call Evan or my son right now, and they could tell me exactly how that would go on our website and do in a second. We could put them on our web page. I would have to ask Tyler, if we could do it, and I would assume Tyler would be good. It's on the YouTube channel. So other options are, I know we talked about, okay, we could put it out on Facebook, but one thing I talked about, if we're going to do that, we need to have somebody who is a social media person. A lot of districts have that. We're not big enough to have that. We don't have the money to have that. No. But if we wanted to develop a supplemental contract where it pays a couple $1,000s where you are putting out information, the challenge is if it's whatever, interactive or whatever, if you don't answer in a timely manner every time somebody says something, asks you a question, you look really dumb. And if by mistake you ever put something out that's incorrect, as Mr. Bryan said, it is there forever. And so, but if we've got Time Warner Cable, the YouTube site, and if we could put it on our web page, we've at least got committee on TV, got committee on YouTube, and got committee on our web page. And so I'll get feedback from everybody here. I'm open to whatever we want to do.
I looked at our website, and I think it's just hard to find where the information is, and even the board updates. The last time the minutes were updated was September of 2016. So all the agendas are out there current to now.
Treasurer's office is supposed to update those minutes within a day or two after we get you guys approve them.
Okay.
So
I did look. I spent a little bit of time looking at Facebook, and you can create a page and then block comments, reviews, postings, taggings, all of that stuff. So it can just be a place to share and push out information. And you can even upload video links or actual videos to the site, or Word or whatever, PDF documents. So there is that option, but it would require somebody to.
It would need to be what somebody's job is. If it's a supplemental contract, it would be done after the school day. Right. Because supplemental contracts aren't to be worked on during the school day. That's what your pay is for after school. I'd even be open to a pretty smart, tech-savvy student if we wanted to do something like that, who we had some trust or whatever. So.
Do we have a webmaster that does our updates to the
Yeah, we have a company who's our host. In regards of who puts stuff up, Terry, our building secretaries, some of the media center aides, Like I think Lisa does it over at the middle school. Terry will put the rising stars. I leave it up to the buildings, and it's typically either the building secretary or the media center aide. Like I don't know if Annette does it or Anna Mae does it at View, puts up any of their stuff. I know the principals, Sandy used to do her own, but I know the rest of the guys don't do their own. So I don't know exactly in each building exactly who puts up, the pictures or any information, like Williams in their 100 years. But the front page is where I'll say, hey, Terry, I want this up, and she'll put it up. So, but to make sure something's done correctly and, what we'd want if we go to, above and beyond the webpage, I think that's a additional conversation because that's a whole new vehicle. And then I think we would need to define what do we want. Is it just district-wide stuff? Is it, if it goes on the webpage, does it go on Facebook site? And honestly, if you have somebody just dedicated to putting stuff up, that's all they do, there could be a lot more information that could be put out. But our web host, I forget, what's the name of our web host? Chris, do you remember?
eSchool.
eSchool. Yeah. So I can put this on for further discussion. I guess my first question is, starting March, do we want NCT in here televising our committee meetings? As always, I say follow the will of the board. Just televising these dudes. I don't care what we do.
I think we ought to wait to figure out what we want to do before we jump on that.
Let's wait and see where we're going to put it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm fine with that. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me. All right, so let's do this. I'll put it on in March, okay? And if you guys have some thoughts, and I'll put some together too, about where we want to go with this above and beyond just like television. Where do we want to go? I'm going to tell you what, I'm the last guy you want to get thoughts about in regards to social media. I'm not a social media guy. I have a Twitter. What's my Twitter handle? It's my dog. And here's why. I don't tweet, but I may want to follow MSNBC, Wall Street Journal, Fox News, the president. Things like that. Follow some professional sports teams, stuff like that. But I've never made a tweet. He's a pretty talented dog. He sat up for about a month when I got into the world of Twitter because I'd hear, hey, just see this video on Twitter. And so it's Buster Brown. What is it? At Buster Brown? Does it have an at first? So I'm the last person who has any knowledge or expertise on this stuff. Typically, I ask one of our 4 kids, what does this mean? It took me a year to figure out what that hashtag thing meant. It's just not something that I don't spend a lot of time on because I got a whole lot of other things to do. So, all right.
Okay.
If you guys want me to get the color copy of Allison, I can just run down the office. We can, if we want to get a drink or something, or we can move forward with this. And
I think we can move forward.
okay. All right. Well, moving forward in the agenda, Education Committee, we got the approving the conference dates. Guys, the Thursdays have worked pretty well because our families are, like I just had a guy in, we had a guy in yesterday, a parent for a meeting. It was me and Joe Wessendorf, and we were talking with this parent. It was of a student who had some challenges, and we wanted to meet with the dad together at Little Oomph by having him come to my office. And he talked about the conferences. And he goes, I really like that they're on Thursdays because now I know when the heck they are. And so our staff likes it. We're getting some good feedback from families. And that was our elementary principal's idea. What I always say to them is, you guys know what works. You tell me what you need. I'm not at conferences. I'm not running conferences. You guys know what you need. And I think this has worked well. Then we have approval of student trips, middle school to D.C., orchestra to Nashville, Tennessee. I don't think they're at the Grand Ole Opry though, boss. So, plus we've got some, I just got to double check. Adam emailed me today about silhouettes and asked if I'd pay for the bus for 6 different competitions you're going to. And I've done that before. If a sports team or silhouettes or orchestra's running low on cash, I can take the bus out of my meeting and mileage account because I don't really go a lot of places. And so I had asked Terry this afternoon, double check to make sure we've board approved them. If not, Adam thinks we did it back in September, but we're going back to look to make sure we've board approved the trips. If not, they'll be on the agenda next week. And then employment, we've got one classified staff member, and I'll just say this, don't ask. Okay? Decay is pronounced, all right? So I had to double and triple check that to make sure it was not a typo. So, but you classified sub. Policy committee, Mr. Faulkner, I got to give you a heads up. How many policies are we reviewing when we meet this week?
35.
Whoa. Nice.
Look, and I don't.
Feels for feeding them to me now.
Yeah.
You have no pain because I'm going to be in a room, in my office, around a table with Christina and Shannon. And Christina's going to read every one of these to me. And I'm going to pay very close attention. We feed them to you with the cross-outs. And I know you read every one.
Just have her record it, and it can be he's on tape, and then he can listen to it.
When it works out.
Because here's what I'm going to tell you. If I look out the window, if I look at a finger, if I doodle, I get smacked in the nose with a ruler by that one. So I'm paying very close attention. Now, Christine, if you'd like, you can email Mr. Faulkner the time of our meeting, and we could pick you up on conference call, or even Skype you on here.
I'll read them on my own. No offense.
What is it? FaceTime. I'll FaceTime you. You can be right there.
It's okay.
All right, I'm trying. So there'll be a bunch on there. Then we got facility Paycor, use it for company basketball game. They've got a couple of these coming up. They only had one date set. They're doing another. They're doing one in April and May. Then they'll look at maybe doing one every 2 weeks in the summer. So I'm not quite sure that they understand that it gets pretty warm in the field house in the summer, but they're going to figure it out when they walk in there. So
Air conditioning one.
we've got approval of financial reports that Ernie will send up from Sunny Florida. And that is our agenda for tonight.
Saw your email about Duke.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
I've been dealing with the guy who is the representative who works with school districts and municipalities. So like mayors, superintendents, township administrators, people like that. And so I'm getting a sense, even though he says it's not, that this is not high on his agenda. And so John and I met to go over, if you remember my text from the weekend about I had this epiphany, let's look at June and July, because nothing is happening in the high school in regards of the kitchen. And so domestic hot water is still being heated for that rare chance that a kid washes their hands and uses hot water and soap. But primarily what we're going to be heating is the water for the pool. Our electric bill is really high in the summer because it's running the chiller and the fans for the air conditioning. So when the air is running, it's much more expensive than using the boilers to heat. So, but that gas gives a potential decent snapshot, because that gas cost is a high percentage of that is just the pool. Everything else is just if a kid washes their hands for summer school, because we're not using any gas stoves or anything like that in the cafeteria, and it's primarily sandwiches and those things for summer lunch. We're not cooking, these big elaborate hot meals. So John is we're going to work with his contact, who is our billing contact, to get things disaggregated, because our bills say high school, Allison. And yeah, we're still spending utility money at Allison. Each building, maintenance office. Now, what's unique, Shea has 3 meters. I think I said that the other night. Visiting lights, home lights, and the concourse. So it'd be real nice if you had something like that, but we don't. So we're working, because we need this information, and we need it now. And Duke's not moving fast enough per my interest. So if you guys haven't read it, it's on your email. I think I hit send about 4:45 maybe. And then I'll be sending it out to you. I've got a spreadsheet almost done. It's more of like an FYI. It's by building what our gas and electric costs are going back to 2001. One thing you'll see is we've dropped them significantly across the district. Now, your BTU costs, the United States has the lowest BTU costs in the entire world, because we're the world's biggest exporter and producer of natural gas from fracking. But also, we've done a lot of things, getting into pool purchasing of natural gas, as well as with electric, you'll see is down, because we've done a lot of putting in new devices, whether it's high efficiency devices or the motion detection in a lot of areas. And then you get a lot of rebates on your bill for doing those things. So it's gone down, and I even found a list that John had done 3 years ago that showed from like '09 to about 3 years ago, all the energy reductions that we did. A lot of it was based on the energy study that we had, all the recommendations from SHP. Then when you're putting in more high efficiency boilers, like we've done at Sharpsburg and we've done at the high school, and we put in one new chiller at the high school, those are energy savings. So basically, the 100% guarantee is I gave you the June and July gas costs for 14, 15, and 16. That's what 100% I can guarantee. The little formula I used, I said, yeah, it's probably a pretty good estimate, because that gas cost is June and July is just to keep the pool warm and a little bit of domestic hot water. So, but it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say that's exactly what it is. But it gives it's the best data that we can have right now based on we're not really heating anything else. We're not heating all that hot water for the cafeteria. And so our kids don't take showers after athletic practice, or very few. So that's the primary. So I'll keep you up to speed once John talks to our account rep and see where we can go for that on getting things more disaggregated and broken down in an expedited manner. Because every time I talk to Warren, he's like, well, I've got to hurry it up. It's up the chain. Well, it's not in this chain. It's not in 2132 Williams Avenue, and it's not in email yet. That's the chain I want. So I'll keep you up to speed on it. And then also we'll have the itemized list by item from Steve and Paul by next Friday. So next Friday at the latest. So because as they're breaking their day down, where I need them to prioritize their day is our safety and security projects and the middle school tuck pointing. So, we have a team of architects, but they only have so many hours in the day, and we're not the only district they're working on. They're building a couple entire new school districts just a little bit up north, up like Troy, Sydney area. So, anything else? All right.
All right. We are adjourned at 6:36.